Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the video to help the message get out a little further. Of course, if it makes sense to you. Gracias. Well, everyone, today I want to touch on something that's been pushed quite a bit, right? On internet, mostly by some black brothers that tend to push that narrative that camaradas are allowed to tell, right, on them, and nothing would happen. And first and foremost, before I get started, man, that's a myth. I sincerely don't know where you guys get it from, but that will never be allowed amongst our gente in the system. And I'm not just to brothers, right? In any shape or form towards anybody. You get dealt with on the spot the minute it comes out to flow. But anyways, today I want to touch on a homie. You guys know I don't tend to use last names, but on this one, I'm going to, right? Because in a sense, I took it personal, because I got fooled too. I believe if anybody has something to hide, they make the decision they should ride with it point blank. Not play the part and try to skate through, as many do. But I'll take you back to Ironwood. I spoken about a camarada named Rick from Palm Springs or Barrio Palm Springs, right? But there was a few homies from Palm Springs here, and where we were working at, in Central Kitchen before that riot I spoke on, there was another camarada, Shadow Sanchez. He was from Palm Springs, but he was from a neighborhood, San Rafael, Locos, or Trece, or something to that effect. And again, the neighborhoods or the cliques came up because they were both with me, and the question got asked, right? You guys from the same neighborhood, and that type of thing. And anyways, I first want to touch on, the Vato Shadow. He was a good individual. At least in the beginning, I thought so, right? Rick being from the same city, county, I know it's Riverside, but it would have been knowing, right? The thing is, there was numerous omissions that had to be taken care of in the beginning, and I could sincerely say that Shadow supported us with a couple people, you know, two homies and a white boy, you know, that like to drink too much and get out of bounds, right? And he was in his building. So again, I go back to when I got that yard, there was a lot of trash. So I had no option but to recall everyone's 128G as court transcripts, direct them to your bloquero so they could be screened. A lot of people chose to lock it up on the spot, you know. a lot. I'm talking about a lot of people that were on the yard for a while, right? And this individual didn't, though. He just happened to be in the block too. So I read through his paperwork, and it didn't state none of that, nothing funny, So I was there, got there in the 99, 2000, left 2001, right? This whole time he was there. Well, there was a big issue that, I'm not gonna say I kicked it off, but what got around was when the alarm went off on 5 block, it was gonna be me uh, pointing or doing point on us moving on certain individuals, right? In this case, it was paisanos that they didn't want to turn in their paperwork. The one I had to deal with was from Jalisco, and he felt he didn't need to show us anything. Or Aguila, that was a BB from the Paisas too, right? So, anyways, it was discussed, and since they had already came down from above that we were one, we were gonna program. They were entitled to follow rules and regulations, just like us and us like them. If you guys get it, or to do things together, point blank. So at the moment, Aguilera had not been clear to go out to yard yet. So I wasn't gonna waste time, right? At the end of the day, I'm appeals got circled to the yard, and it was gonna be like everybody, all the hooters gonna run to 5 block to see what's up, and at the same time, there was about 5, 6 different targets on the yard, right? Keep in mind, I was already out my way from Ironwood because of the turning thing with Guero from Chivas, and but nevertheless, we had real good communication with the yard. So time came, right? We went out to yard. I gave about 20 minutes. We got out there, shook Baisa, said you will exchange whatever was important to exchange. And we lined up for the rutina. When we lined up for rutina, I had asked this vato, hey, Jalisco, come out to front, out of respect. I don't want three homies to be in front. I want, you know, to maintain what we were asked for. So, anyways, he listened. I was the only one calling the rutina at the moment, right, in front. And we started off, we usually always start off with burpees. Remember, it was 113, 24 count burpees. And, I'm not going to tap myself on the back, but I could do burpees all day at that time. Even though we're out in the open desert, right? So as we're doing it along, I have my shirt because of the floor, and I got my socks on. And just in between, everybody was already informed, and I rushed, right? I rushed homeboy, and before he could realize it, I started whacking him. And this is not to glorify, right? In any way, shape, or form. Again, the point of the story is something different. by me doing that, I started, I ain't gonna stop till I got sprayed or whatever, right? So I would end up hitting them. The times ain't important, but at a certain time, I threw that thing they had already sprayed, threw them spit hit grenades because we weren't wearing shoes that throw them little pellets on the floor and stuff. And I threw that and I kept going. I keep going on them, and right as I'm still keep going on them, AR goes off, you know, and everything went on to plan. We basically went the right route. We got at T to address Chino from a left and told him, look, these are the hard hit individuals. Even the individual you have here running them, Aguacate, he still, they don't want to listen to him. They're saying they are what they are and they ain't going to do whatever we state, period, point blank, to do what we please. So we got that okay. We had that okay from the gate, to go ahead and they don't want a program. They could go to that other side and figure a program out, right? So that got done. Every mark eventually got hit and they were done. A lot of them came back to the hold and Speelies were there. They tried to explain themselves, and I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I was that little snake. Trying to convince them that yeah, I'll speak for you, and so you're cool. You're able to come back out to your own program, right? But by that time, the squad already knew they were done, so they weren't allowing it. It just came to a point where just removing from the program. That's it for them. I was trying to get another round at them, to be sincere, and you know, it was just we do a job for us to do a job, to the best of what we're entitled to. The whole yards in Ironwood, they're tricky because there's a back wall where you shower, but other than that, they're gated, right? That fence, and where you come in, there's a little hallway, and it allows you to get into the other yard. There's one in front of the other, and in the middle, there's a CO. He has that spray, that wow, and he leaves it out in the sun in the desert, right? So that it makes sure it's hot enough so that when they start hitting you, it opens up your pores and it goes inside. And nevertheless, the tower's out there too. So we did that, and you know, shortly after this, right, shortly after this, the homie went back there to the hole. Shadow. He went back there, and first off, he went back there for something that's a no. Him and his Ellie got in a small argument, and they put hands on each other without addressing it on the yard, without making it personal. They just put hands on each other, and they basically were upfront about it. They didn't have no choice. Who'd have seen them, took them up, brought them to the hole, right? And in the hole, though, they were bringing buses from different places. Keep in mind, the homie had me about 5 years. 5 years, somewhere there, give and take, right? As we're there, again, I was the front man, right? I wasn't the man. I was just the front man for T and the people that were there, the señores, and this crib from the same town, Spawn Springs. I don't know how they beef or I don't know what their story is, right? But this individual first sends me one time addressing to me, a that fool's called E Shadow and his last name's Torres, right? He's from this, and that, and everything match. And he told me in juvenile hall he had ratted down there. He had told police about him to the point where he got arrested, right? And he had the black and white. So I told him to go ahead and shoot it down. You know, I told him we're in the hole. We take care of our own people. Just shoot me the paperwork. And if it's as you state, don't even worry about it. He asked for a week to request from the outside, and he got. And dead on, right? It was him. And paperwork, it stated some tattoos he had already. They still had his last name, first name, the clique he was from, again, San Rafael. I forgot if it was Locos or Trece, do excuse me, but when this got sent to me, I showed it to Oso, right? Because he was closer. So when I sent it to Oso, the word was, hey, he's basura. He ever makes it out to the group yard, you know what time it is. We got a chance to prove a point here, because Ironwood, there was a lot of blacks, to be honest, and they had that mentality, right? That camaradas were able to tell, and nothing would happen to them. For as much as we try to explain out of respect, if you have the paperwork, show it. If it happened when he was a juvenile, it don't appear on his current 128G and stuff. So get us the paperwork. Of course, we're not just gonna put steel on somebody just because somebody else said, right? It could fall back on us. But this was one of them times where, the Vato did, I don't know if they were young, but he did get arrested, and I guess the brother had pulled out a gun or shot, and this dude would end up getting arrested, Shadow, right? And after so long, he would end up telling him, hey, it was so and so from this crib neighborhood, and they ran up on this. He was driving this car, but he snitched straight to the point, and he skated through again because it was juvenile, you know. And I believe, I don't know how it works if you testified as a juvenile in court, if it sticks to you or follows you, or just by making statements, it still reflects. But in this case, it didn't. So, I was still on management cell because of the current events, right? So there was two camaradas, a homie. I talked about him, stranger from Anaheim, and the homie GQ, Victorville. They would end up on the same group yard, right? And the favor was asked of them, go ahead and whack this fool till you can't no more. Literally, till they pull the meanie or you just incapable of the objective is he's a rat. I took it personal because again we were in Central Kitchen and I felt played. Now I do understand, there's a lot of fear effect when you're young, right? Detectives try to get under your skin and stuff, but where we all come from, we're always taught, to shut your mouth when they're trying to get things out of you. I don't know what you're talking about. You have me mixed up. I need a lawyer present, you know, and at least in my neighborhood, we all knew, you fall alone. Detectives are gonna get crazy for hours, which is part of, right? But I understand, as a child, don't matter what you're involved in, you're still a child, but there ain't no forgiveness. And the end look on this, they would end up, he would join the Paisas and end up locking it up, right? Which Rick made sure nobody was fooled on the streets either, right? And we got the respects from the brother, with the gracias and I appreciate you. Yes, I never seen it in firsthand. It was that type of thing, But now I know what's up. And anyways, you know, the point of the story is exactly that. When it comes to sureños, norteños, whites, and I'm pretty sure even blacks, right? If anybody's there for snitching on no one, they ain't gonna let it slide. How you gonna be sharing a spread or having a good conversation, worked out, walk a lap with someone that's funny, and it just keep it sincere even though he done work and he has not gotten caught. At the end of the day, if he would have ever gotten caught, if it was easy one time and you got away with it, they're gonna speak. I heard from a certain individual. I was young. I know I had said too much, but my own people didn't figure it out. Nah, you skated through because you went through a program that wasn't even active like that. And it stayed as a juvenile as you moved to a higher system, but you still ended up going weenie, right? But this is basically dedicated to all the brothers, right? The blacks that I know have that believe me, in 23 years, 11 months, just in the system, right? I've seen it numerous and numerous of time, especially inside institutions that brothers from with camaradas, and it went both ways. Camaradas had things on brothers, and brothers on camaradas, and both angles would get handled with to prevent problems. And second of all, we just don't allow that in no way, shape, or form will we ever have someone that's a rat, regardless on who, how, what, walk amongst us. But anyways, that's my look. I kind of want to touch on the subject. I know there's a lot of poison. And to me, it's just a lot of misunderstood individuals, mostly individuals that have not been to the pen, that have not gone through them shoes, that know really how things work. It's mostly the cats that are out there just running their mouth. They hear something and they run with it. To me, that's just spreading poison. And I know it's part of the territory because we can differ in ourselves in many ways. But the one thing we can't take from one another is that we're both ghetto babies. We're raised the same in the same environment. You know, I heard a lot of good brothers that speak up on the naive ones, right? The poison is real, so be smart. I always say it's always great to ask. The answers are there. And I'm not saying this to say, oh, there hasn't been sureños telling on brothers, because hell yeah, there's winnies on every faction. But if you never press the issue, you never press the paperwork, you know, that's how we move. Under seeing black and white. Once we see black and white, there's no buts or ifs, it's gonna get dealt with. But anyways, I just thought I would share this personal experience. Just it happens. But I think proper anger should be met to take proper steps instead of allowing people that just haven't been doing or done that spread poison and keep this feud going. I understand game banging is what game banging is, but let's not make things out to what they're not, right? Respect to all the black brothers, in every way, shape, or form. I hope I was able to make sense with this personal story. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones.